The other day, I was reminiscing about something that happened in my past, and it's kind of strange, it's kind of weird, because I don't usually start a message this way, getting up here and just bragging about my past accomplishments. So I wasn't sure how I should do this or talk about this, but I was thinking about it. It's been on my mind a lot lately, and maybe you guys have, maybe the rumors out there, maybe some of y'all know, but I was reminiscing about the time when I beat Iron Mike Tyson for the heavyweight championship. It's kind of embarrassing. Don't make a big deal about it, guys. But and maybe you didn't know, but yeah, I did. In the past, I have fought Iron Mike Tyson, and I won the heavyweight championship from Iron Mike. For those that are a little skeptical, I will tell you, I even know the year. It was 1987. I was 11 years old. And Nintendo just came out with the new game, Mike Tyson Punch-Out. And I got the game. I found it interesting that even today, it is still number 7 on Nintendo's best-selling game list. So it's pretty popular. They have taken Mike Tyson out. It's just called Punch-Out. But when it first came out, it was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. And if you're familiar with the game, anybody ever played the game before? You're familiar with it? Yeah. We got any former champions here? Any more former heavyweight champions? Okay, we got a few of you guys. If you remember, there would be different levels, and you would have to go through different guys before you would get to Iron Mike Tyson. And you were this guy, you were this little guy called Little Mac. That's who you were. That's the title they gave you. And all of these boxers were huge. They were way bigger than you. And you were working your way up to the heavyweight champion, Iron Mike Tyson. Now, here's the thing. Back in 1987, this game was not easy. This was a very difficult game. And for me personally, I kind of got down on myself. I got maybe a little depression set in because, see, I could get past Glass Joe. He was the first guy. I could get past King Hippo. There was this other dude. It was like Tiger something. I can't remember. But what was it? Great Tiger? But I couldn't even get to Iron Mike Tyson. It was too hard, guys. But here's the thing. I'd go to school. And at school, my friends and I'd hear other people talking about how they were fighting Mike Tyson. Even some of them were talking about how they beat Mike Tyson. I'm like, oh my gosh, I felt so inadequate. Anybody ever, you hear somebody else bragging about something, or not even bragging, they're just telling a story and you're like, you feel inadequate? Am I the only one? How many ever have you're in a testimony service and everybody's sharing their testimony and it should be really uplifting, but you're just I wish God would do that for me, you know? So I was hearing that and I finally got the courage to ask my friend, how do you do it? I was pretty much going to my friend and saying, train me. I felt like I was Rocky Balboa. Take me and make me your students. And he shared something with me I'll never forget. There's this code. (007-373-5963). Left twice, up 3 times, select, and it would take you straight to Mike Tyson for the championship. There was another cheat code, I don't remember, another one that would give you full health. Your health would never go down. This, my friend, was a game changer. Yes. Because now I feel empowered. Now I can take on the world. I can definitely take on Mike Tyson. I'm about to be the new heavyweight champion. So the title of my message is Game Changer. Now here's the thing with the Game Changer, because I've actually done a message before titled, this was years ago, Be the Game Changer. Oh man, you are responsible. You be the game changer. You make a difference. And sometimes, maybe you've experienced game-changing moments. Maybe for you a game-changing moment isn't getting, and some people call them cheat codes. Listen, they make the codes for a reason. I just call them game changer codes. All right? You can call them what you will. Don't judge me. But maybe it's that job that you've been working hard to get. You finally got it. You got that break, game changer. Maybe it was that house. All the houses that all the other houses are going for $400,000, but you got that house in the neighborhood for a deal for $150,000, game changer. Maybe it was the game changer was maybe is meeting your spouse, or you feel like that, or maybe you just had children. Like I didn't have anything to live for until I had my children. Game changer. Maybe it was when you walked in the doors of a church that's at 3003 Rhode Island Avenue. And you're like, yes, this guy's the best preacher I've ever heard. Game changer. Then you came to the next week, and it was some teacher dude, and you're like, eh. But maybe you've had those game changer moments. Maybe you feel like a game changer. Maybe it's in the positive, maybe it's in the negative. Maybe you've had positive game-changing moments. Maybe you've had negative game-changing moments. Maybe you're like, man, you throw me in any situation, any scenario, I'm going to make it better. I'm a game changer. Or maybe you throw me in any other scenario, I'm going to mess it up. Still a game changer, right? So that's what. But I want to talk about this. I want to hit it from a different direction. I want to hit it from the direction of the one game changer that we should all have in our lives. And I think we all know who that is. We're in church, guys. Come on. Jesus, right? We're talking about Jesus. I'm not talking about Dr. Seuss here. Like, we're going to do some Bible verses here in a minute. You guys know. Don't act surprised. But Jesus is the ultimate game changer. Now, there's a story in the Bible, because that's what we're going to talk about, the Bible. We're going to do some Bible stuff. So there's a story, and it's found in the book of Ruth. And there's this dude in the book of Ruth that I really relate to. I'm like, that's me. Now, I know what you're thinking, because anytime we talk about the book of Ruth, there's one guy that everybody thinks about. Y'all know who it is? Boaz. That is not who I'm talking about. That is not the dude that I relate to. The guy I relate to is this dude named Elimelech. I'm like, that so could be me. Because see, here, Elimelech, he was raised in his family in Bethlehem, and he was kind of an important person. He came from a family line where the people kind of made a big deal about it a little bit, but there was this famine in Bethlehem. And he had 2 boys, and he had a wife. And I know it's easy for us to sit back and look at people in the Bible and go, man, I can't believe they did that. But when you are desperate, you will do things that you never thought you would do. So there's a famine in the land. Elimelech is looking at his wife, Naomi. He's looking at his 2 boys. They are starving. They have no food. And he decides to make things happen on his own. He decides to be the game changer in his family. Anybody ever try to do something on your own, make something happen because you're like, God's not working fast enough, so I'm going to have to make this happen? Anybody ever done that? Just me. All right, awesome. So he gets his wife and he gets his kids, and they pack up and they leave Bethlehem, and they're looking to go to a place that's prospering, a place that has plenty of food, and they go to this place called Moab. Now, here's the thing about Moab. You're like, big deal, you're like moving from Fort Pierce to Atlanta. It's not what it was like. Because the people of Moab were some crazy individuals. They were into some, not so good stuff, right? I'm not talking about your neighbor that, you sitting on the back porch and you just, maybe they're listening to some music with some curse words. That's not real. It was worse than that. I know you're shocked, Steve. In fact, I want to show you how it was. Now, first, Elimelech, he has 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion. Now, those are weird names. And if you were looking for a name to name a baby boy, I would not suggest these 2, not because of the names from first thought, but because of what they mean. Mahlon means sickness. Chilion means destruction. It's like, hey, I'm Elimelech. This is my wife Naomi. This is my son, sickness and destruction. Not the best names for children. Awesome tag team wrestling names. Just want to say that. There is perspective. But see, they go to Moab. Now I want you to look at Deuteronomy 23, 2 through 3. This is an instruction that God has given the people of Israel. And he says, no one born of a forbidden marriage, nor any of their descendants may enter the assembly of the Lord, not even in the 10th generation. No Ammonite or Moabite or any of their descendants may enter in the assembly of the Lord, not even to the 10th generation. And then he goes down to verse 6, 23:6 of Deuteronomy. He says, do not seek a treaty of friendship with them as long as you live. In other words, don't even talk to them. Don't ask them to be your friend. Don't invite them over for dinner. Don't even find out what their name is. Just have nothing to do with them. And then here's Elimelech, that he knows this, and he packs up his kids. Why? Because they're starving. Why? Because they don't have any food. Packs them up and said, we're going to Moab. The place where there's God's saying, don't even associate with those people. Don't even talk to them. Don't even find out what their names are. So it's a big deal. These are like enemies of God that they're going there. They go to Moab. Things are going okay at the beginning. They got food. They're raising their boys. But then something happens. Elimelech dies. And now Naomi's a widow, and she just has her boys. And then shortly after that, they get married. They marry two Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. 10 years go by, and then Mahlon and Chilion, they die. Now, poor Naomi, she's a widow. She's lost her husband, but not only her husband, she's lost her two boys. She's not the only widow. Now her daughter-in-laws are widows. And Naomi's like, what has my life come to? You ever been there? You're like, there's no way out of this. Maybe you're there like that today. And Naomi's just sitting there. She's trying to think, what should I do? What should I do? What? And she thinks, you know what? I heard a rumor that things are going good back in Israel, that in Bethlehem they got plenty of food. I remember being happy there. I got family there. So she makes a decision that she's going to move back to Bethlehem. Now, at first she gets up, she says, hey, girls. She talks to Ruth and Orpah, says, get packed, get your stuff. We are going to Bethlehem. We're going back to my hometown. Now, here's these two Moabite widows, and they're like, okay, because they loved Naomi. And they're like, whatever you want us to do. They start traveling to Bethlehem. Naomi just gets a short distance, and she starts thinking, and she's like, it's not fair for Ruth and Orpah to be coming with me. Because at that time, it was a hard time to be a widow. Because at that time, when you were a widow, especially in Moab, that's why God put in the law, like, to take care of widows and orphans. Because when your husband died, there's nobody to take care of you. So in Moab, being a widow, there's no one to take care of you. There's no one to provide for you. A lot of times you would go hungry. A lot of times you would end up in the street begging for food. The only hope you had is to go back to your parents' home and hope they take you back so you can live under their roof and they can provide for you. So here's Naomi going back to Bethlehem with Ruth and Orpah, and she starts thinking, here's some widows. They're going to go back. They're going to know they're Moabite women. She turns to them and says, you know what? This ain't fair for you girls. She says, what y'all need to do is you need to go back to your parents' house. You guys need to go back to Moab. Find some new husbands, some guys that will marry you. They'll take care of you. You girls need to go back. I'll continue going to Bethlehem. Both Orpah and Ruth said no. They started crying. They're like, we don't want to leave you. This is what Naomi said. Ruth 1:11-13. It says, but Naomi said, return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could become your husband? Because back then, if you became a widow, if one of your relatives or your brother married a woman and then he died and she was a widow, then it was your responsibility to then marry her, have a son with her if she didn't have children, so that name could live on. So this is why Naomi's saying this. Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, Even if I had a husband tonight, even if I found some dude desperate enough to take me tonight, and then give birth to sons, would you wait for them to grow up? Like, come on. Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters. It is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand has turned against me. Now, in Naomi's mind, this is what she's thinking. She's saying, my life is bitter. Like, she's saying, all these things, like, these bad things are happening to me. I messed up somewhere along the line. God's mad at me, and that's why these things are happening to me. Have you ever done that? Like, things are piling up, and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know why this is happening, and then you're trying to connect the dots, and you're like, oh man, I didn't go to church last Sunday. Oh geez, I didn't give in the offering. Oh man, you know what? I said that curse word on Monday. And you start thinking, and you're like, God is trying to teach me a lesson. Anybody ever done that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. You guys don't want to say anything. Just you and me, Josh. It's the only ones. And I think Jackie admitted to it. So Ruth is like, all this bad stuff's happened to me. You don't want it to be anywhere around me. She's gotten bitter towards God. In fact, in Ruth 1:20-21, when she actually gets to Bethlehem, they start getting excited. They're like, Naomi. She's like, don't call me that. And she changed her name to Mara, because Naomi means pleasant one. She's like, I ain't pleasant no more. All this stuff happened to me. She said, call me Mara, because that means bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me. I've heard people say, man, I got cancer. God's given me cancer because he's trying to teach me faith. No, that is not true. God does not do that. It is Satan that brings destruction. It is Satan that's trying to kill you. The Bible says God gives you life more what? Abundantly. Gives you life more abundantly. God's not making all these bad things happen to you. So Orpah's like, okay, Naomi's insisting that they go. Orpah's like, all right, I'll go back to my parents' house. She leaves. She gives her mother-in-law a hug. She takes off. Ruth clings to Naomi and says, I don't care what you say. I am not leaving you. Wherever you go, I'm going to go. Wherever you live, I live. Wherever you die, I'm going to die. Whatever God you serve, I'm going to serve. And Naomi's like, I give up. Come on. So they go to Bethlehem. Now here's this Moabite widow. She don't know what to expect. Man, what the faith of Ruth. She has no idea what to expect. She knows the Israelites don't like Moabites. And now she's struggling being a widow in Moab. Now she's going to be a widow in Israel. They get there. The whole town is buzzing. Man, Naomi's back. How she has this Moabite widow with her. One of her sons that dies, her wife. And there's a buzz all around town. Now, during this time, it was also the barley festival. And Jeff, you know just as I know you're sleeping. Jeff, you know just as much as I know, it gets wild at barley harvests. That is, yes. Remember that one time we went to the barley harvest, we left our wives at home, and we were just like, it's too much? Yeah. I wouldn't have looked at Kathy at that time. It gets wild at barley harvest, okay? It's crazy times. Somebody mentioned in first service, I said that, and someone was like, isn't that what they make beer with? And I was like, that's why we left you at home. I truly didn't think of that, but it made it so much better. He made me go, Kathy. It's his idea. They get there, it's the barley harvest. And Ruth goes to Naomi. They're living together. They're just them. They're trying to survive. And there was this tradition. That what would happen is in the fields that when they were picking the barley, any of the barley that fell to the ground, they had to leave it there. Why? Because for those that are less fortunate, those that are poor, don't have money to buy food, they can come by and they can pick it up that's on the road. So if you owned land and you were picking the barley and it dropped on the ground, you could not pick it up, even though it was on your own land. that was to be given to them. So Ruth says, I'm going to go and see if there's any barley on the road. I'm going to go pick it up. Naomi's like, all right, go for it. She gets on this land, and it just so happens to be this wealthy dude named Boaz. Now, this is the part of the story where you're like, yeah, I know this, because how many's ever heard the story of Boaz? All right, a few of you, most of you. Now, here's where Boaz sermons usually come in. Women's conferences, for one. I've seen the Boaz Women's Conference. How to find your Boaz. You've been to one of those, didn't you, Miss Ann? And then I've seen an article for husbands that is how to be a Boaz. Here's the problem with that. Have you ever tried to compare yourself to somebody? Like, you ever looked on social media and you compared yourself to what somebody wants you to see of their lives, and you're comparing the outside of their lives, what they put all pretty in a window, and you're comparing it to the inside of your lives, and you feel less than because of, you're like, man, my life isn't that good. You ever done that? So the problem is when we compare and we try to go around looking for our Boaz, here's the thing. You'll never find them. And you're like, what are you talking about? You'll never find them. Because, and who is Boaz? It's going to be a little spoiler alert. So if you don't want to know this, Larry, you can cover your ears. Spoiler alert. I feel like it's important in this to tell you guys who Boaz is. Matthew 1:5. It's the genealogy of Jesus. It says Salmon, the father of Boaz. It's his dad. Whose mother was Rahab. Boaz, the father of Obed, whose mother was, this is a spoiler alert. Larry, close your ears. The mother was Ruth. So in this, I just told you, Ruth and Boaz get together. All right, it happens. Sorry to burst the bubble. Spoiler. And is it Obed, the father of Jesse. Now, with this comparison with Boaz, this is a non-fictional story. That means it's real, with symbolic meanings. Symbolic means all over this thing. Because Boaz is not supposed to be a representation of your future husband. I'll just tell you that. Or a male version of your future wife. Steve. If you're looking for your Boaz, I got good news. You can find him, or he's actually already found you this morning. It is Jesus. Jesus is your Boaz. See, Jeff, they don't even clap for that. Jesus. I said Jesus, and they don't even clap. You guys are going to be in trouble. He's taking notes. Now, here's the thing. We put expectations, and if we are expecting our husband to be Boaz. I've read stories where women are like, I divorced my husband because God's going to bring my Boaz. That is totally unbiblical. And then you got these husbands trying to be Boaz, and you'll never be it. So what you have is you have these women looking for their Boaz, and then eventually you just give up because you'll never find them, and then you just settle. Or you have as a man, you're like, I'm just not good enough. There's no way I can be that. I just give up. Now, also, your Boaz might not be a husband or wife. Your Boaz may be your children. Your Boaz may be your job. Your Boaz may be your church. Your Boaz may be your pastor. But things that you are throwing these expectations, because in this story, we're about to find out that Boaz is the guardian redeemer. Anybody else know a redeemer? It's Jesus. Yeah. Don't clap, though. No. See, when I tell you not to clap, you clap. So here's the thing, what happens is you go out looking for your Boaz in a person. And you throw these unfair expectations. Because if you're throwing these expectations on your spouse, they're never going to live up to them. And you're trying to fill these voids in you. It's never going to happen. And you're throwing all these expectations on them that they are not made to fill. So check this out. Because of my relationship with Jesus, and if I allow Jesus to fill those voids in my life, then I no longer am putting those expectations on my wife, Julie. If Julie is allowing Jesus to fill her voids, then she's not throwing those expectations on me. So that means when we get together, we can just be. And you ever want your marriage to grow, you ever want a relationship to grow, go in there with not like, you got to do this for me and I got to do that for you, but you just get together and you just be. Some of the best moments in my life was getting together with my wife and just being. Just hanging out, just talking. Just sharing. No expectations or looking for an answer or looking for the right thing. But a lot of times we go out and we search for our Boaz, we never find them, and then we settle on things. And instead of getting Boaz, which is spelled B-O-A-Z, we find some distant relatives of Boaz. Now don't get mad at me, I took this from Jensen Franklin. Instead of finding our Boaz, we end up with his distant relatives, broke as A-Z, po as, lying as, cheating as, dumb as, drunk as, I'm making sure I say as, Jeff, cheap as, locked up as, lazy as, good for nothing as, and then my all-time favorite, his distant third cousin, beating yo as. I wasn't sure how that was going to go over, Pastor Mark. This was either going to just end right here, or they're going to laugh. Huh? Now, I also want you to notice who Boaz's mom was. Did you pick up on that verse? Who his mom was? No. It was Rahab. Remember who Rahab is? She's the prostitute that hid the spies in Jericho when the Israelites came to the Promised Land. So, is it possible that God, this whole time, has been preparing Boaz for Ruth? You think it has something to do with how he thought of Ruth as being a Moabite because of who his mom was? Because in Joshua 6:25 it says, "But Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute with her family and all who belonged to her because she hid the men Joshua had sent as spies to Jericho. And she lives among the Israelites to this day." So he witnessed his mom, who was an outsider, who was not an Israelite, be accepted. So now when he saw Ruth, as the Bible says that he walks in, he's talking to the workers. He notices Ruth over in the distance. He's like, whoa, who is that chick? Now, his workers say, oh, that girl, she's been here since the morning. She's that Moabite girl. I want to point out that your Redeemer, that Jesus, he does not see you how other people see you. And the Bible says that Boaz went and approached Ruth. He didn't say, hey, heard you were that Moabite chick. Didn't do that. He approached her and he told her, he said, you are always welcome here. Don't worry about going to any other fields. This is my field. If you need water, if you're thirsty, you just go in there and you get water. You just make yourself at home. In fact, just go ahead and follow my workers and they'll make sure that you have all the barley you need. And then he went to his workers and said, just throw barley on the ground on purpose. Maybe you've experienced that type of grace in your life at some point where it's just like blessing after blessing after blessing. Ruth gets excited. She picks up all this. It says that the Bible says that she got one basket full. She got one basket full of barley. She's excited about it. She runs back home to Naomi. Naomi's like, where did you get all this? She's like, I met this dude. He's amazing. His name is Boaz, and he let me have all of this. He let me pick it up. Now, here's this. Naomi is all bitter. She's all mad at God. God's done all this. Now, all of a sudden, the light bulb comes on. She's like, I know that dude. In fact, she's a relative of my husband, Elimelech. and he is also a guardian redeemer. He is one of our guardian redeemers. And you're like, well, what is a guardian redeemer? This is guardian redeemer has 3 roles. There's 3 roles. 1, they rescue the land owned by a family member that they lost because of debt. Or if because of your debt you had to then end up selling yourself and becoming someone's slave, the guardian redeemer could then go buy out your debt and set you free. That's one role. Another role is to be an avenger of the family. So if somebody comes and they kill somebody in your family, it is the guardian redeemer's role to then seek that person out and avenge them. The third role is if one of the relatives married a woman and then he died and she became a widow and didn't have a son, they would then marry the widow, have a son with her, and then that son is not considered his son, but is considered the dead man's son, and the name would carry on. Wow. And Boaz, Naomi's excited and says, he's one of our guardian redeemers. Now here's the problem though. She's a Moabite. She's not an Israelite. So the rules don't really apply. But Naomi comes up with this plan. She's like, I'm about to get my girl hitched. She says, when's the last time you took a bath? It's been a while, isn't it, Ruth? Get in there, bathe up. I got some deodorant here. I got this perfume. I got this dress. It's never been worn. And she got her all dressed up and says, what you're going to do, you're going to go to Boaz's place. You're going to go and have dinner with him. When dinner's over, after he's ate a lot, he's drank a lot, you're going to hide. And then, when he goes to bed and he falls asleep, you sneak into his room. You uncover his feet and then you lay down by his feet. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, some kind of plan, Naomi. What kind of story are you telling us, Jimmy? I want to point this out that this is not sexual whatsoever. Because then when you touch someone's feet, that is you humbling yourself. That is a form of respect. And she is saying you're going to go to your Redeemer and you're going to touch his feet. Matthew 15:30 says this. It says, great crowds came to him, bringing the lame, the blind, the crippled, the mute, many others, and laid them at his feet, and he healed them. When you're at the feet of your Redeemer, miracles happen. Amen. Healing happens. Amen. Hope happens. Grace happens. Ruth follows Naomi's plan. She hides. It's nighttime. Boaz is going to sleep. She tiptoes into his room. She uncovers his feet. And then she lays down at his feet. And check this out. Boaz wakes up in the middle of the night, around midnight. And he is startled. I would say so. If you're a parent, you know there's been times where your kids come and get in the bed with you and you're like, whoa, what? Who is this? There's some woman in the bed with him. It's dark. And he's like, who is this? Who's here? Ruth is like, don't be afraid. It's your servant Ruth. Now, check this out. Back then it was common for the woman, some of you women, you need to, because you're like, I've been waiting for him to propose and he's just never going to do it. Maybe you need to pick it up, because back then it was common for the woman to do the proposing. I could tell you stories about Julie getting down on one knee and proposing to me and begging me. She's going to tell you that it's not true, but, I mean, would I make something up here? Y'all know me too well. But this was a marriage proposal, because she says, it's your servant Ruth. It says, you are our family's guardian redeemer. So she's pretty much saying, will you marry me? Do you want to marry me? You want me to be your wife? Now, Boaz, we already know from the story of Ruth out in the field. Boaz, already pretty fond of Ruth, but he also is like, we got to handle this right. And he tells her, you actually have a relative that's closer guardian redeemer than me. So what I need to do is I need to go to him, find out if he's willing to redeem you. If he's not, I will. But I got to find out first. Then he tells Ruth, he says, come here. And he gives her 6 baskets of barley. I got to find this verse. I know, just give me like 10 minutes or so. Talk amongst yourselves. Ruth 3:15 says, he also said, bring me the shawl you are wearing and hold it out. When she did so, he poured into it 6 measures of barley and placed the bundle on her. Then he went back to town. You remember the verse I read earlier? How many, I don't know if I read the verse, but I told you the story. Well, how much barley did she get the first time when it was her working on her own? 1. Now, all she didn't do any work. All she did is laid at the feet of her Redeemer. And how many baskets does she have? 6. This is, I don't have time to go all into it, but 6, this is 6, I've done a message on it. 6 is the number of what? Man. 6 is the number of man. 6 also is the number of incomplete. So it's not complete. So what's happening here is Boaz is saying, here's 6 baskets. You only got 1 when it was you working on your own. Laboring on your own. Now that you laid at my feet, here's 6. But I'm not done. Because soon you're about to get your 7th measure. 7 is complete. That means it is complete. Your full measure. You're not only going to get the baskets, but you're going to get the supplier of the baskets. Boaz goes into town. Ruth goes back to Naomi. She's probably a little upset. She's probably like, oh my gosh. Naomi's like, what happened? She's like, oh, it could be good. It could be bad. There might be this other dude that marries me instead. I don't really know. This is what Naomi said to her. Ruth 3:18, it says, then Naomi said, wait, my daughter, until you find out what happens. What did she tell her to do? Wait. For the man, who's the man? Boaz, representation of Jesus, will not rest until the matter is settled today. Matthew 11:28 says, Jesus, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. There's some of you that we've been trying to get it done on our own. We're like, I got to just work harder. I got to do more. And Jesus is just like, no, you just need to lay at my feet. And I'll do the heavy lifting. I'll do it because what he has rest for you, he has rest for you guys that some of you've never even experienced the kind of rest that he has. Boaz goes into town. He goes to the city gate. The city gate's where all the important people is. He's like, I know this dude. He's my relative. He's the other guardian redeemer. He sits down, okay? He sees the elders of the town. He goes to 10 elders. I want you to see this representation here. Naomi represents, in this story, Israel. We already know Boaz represents who? Right. Who does Ruth represent? Us. You're cheating, Joy, because you're here for the first service. Now, I am about to introduce to you guys the other man. And I'm going to say something that some of you is going to actually, you're going to be like, what? What are you talking about? But I want to point something out to you. There are 2 redeemers. Now you're like, what are you talking about? Because this is like, he's a heretic, and you're about to get up and leave. Bernie, don't leave yet. Heather, don't let him leave. You're like, what are you talking about? Hear me out. Just give me a couple minutes. Okay? There's 2 redeemers. You can be redeemed 2 ways. We know there's Boaz. That's Jesus. That's grace. But you know there's another way to be redeemed. There's another way to get God's favor. What I'm telling you is there's another way you can be saved. What I'm telling you is there's another way you can get to heaven. Now you're like, I don't even know. I guess Pastor Mark's our only pastor now. Carol, you probably should get up here and play some music before the crowd gets restless. Could get messy here. There's two redeemers. I want you to see this. There's two ways. There's Jesus, which is offered grace, but there's another way. Because this other man, what he represents, we don't get a name, but this other man represents the law. So if you take the law, I believe it's 316 laws in the Old Testament. If you can take those laws and you can do every single one of them correctly 100% of the time, then you can get yourself to heaven. You can. There's another way. If you can do that. Here's the thing. It's impossible. You'll never be good enough. You'll never do enough. It'll never happen. But there's two redeemers. There's two ways for redemption. He goes to the city gate. He gets the elders of the town. He gets 10 of them. Why? Because he wants them to be a witness. What does the 10 elders represent? They represent the 10 commandments. You got to watch this. He sits down. It's not too much longer that the other dude comes by. Boaz sees him. He knows him. That's his cousin, you know. He's like, hey, come over here. I need to talk to you about something. He goes, you know Naomi? He's like, yeah, I know Naomi. Well, she's back in town. You know, unfortunately, Amalek died. Mahlon died. Chilion died. Now, Naomi, she needs some money, and she has this land. Because if you're the guardian redeemer, and one of the relatives are selling land, they get first bids at it. They get first shot at it. He says, do you want to buy the land? Now, here's what this other guardian redeemer, this other man's thinking. He's like, I can take advantage of this. Because I know that land. They're wanting to build a Walmart on that land. So I'm going to get it for the cheap. So he says, I'll redeem it, Boaz. Boaz says, I thought you would say that. So when you buy that, I just need to let you know this. When you buy that land from Naomi, you also, since you're the guardian redeemer, you also get with it Mahlon's wife, who is a widow. You get to marry her. Like, whoa. She's a Moabite, right? Yeah, that one. It's going to be too risky. Because here's the thing. If he would have bought the land, he would have married Ruth now and have a child with him. Now, that child, who's not even considered the guardian redeemer's son, gets the inheritance. So everything he worked for, the son gets it. And he don't even get to count him as son. So he's like, nah, man, it's too risky. Not going to do it. He was all in when it benefited him. Now Ruth has been rejected, and I want to tell you guys this. The law will always reject you because you'll never be good enough. You'll never be perfect. Boaz says, I predicted this. I'll redeem her. I'll buy the property, and I will redeem Ruth. Now here's the cool thing. Ruth 4, 7 and 8. It says, now in earlier times in Israel, for the redemption and transfer of property to become final, one party took off his sandal, kind of weird, right? Took off his sandal and gave it to the other. This was a method of legalizing transactions in Israel. The other man takes off his sandal, hands it to Boaz, and says, it's all yours. What we have just witnessed, what we have just seen, what these 10 elders have just seen is Ruth's Redeemer has just bought her life from the law. Jesus has just bought out the law. The law no longer has any power. The law no longer has the power to redeem. The law no longer has the power of guilt. Because Paul says in Romans, there is no condemnation. He says the law has no power. And Boaz takes the sandal. The law says she's not qualified. The law says she's a Moabite. She's not worthy. Boaz says, I'll redeem her. He gets the sandal and what we have just seen. Remember what the names, the meaning of the two sons? Yeah. Ruth 4, 9 and 10. It says, Boaz announced to the elders and all the people, today you are witnesses that I have just bought from Naomi all the property of Elimelech, Kilion, and Mahlon. I have also acquired Ruth the Moabite, Mahlon's widow, as my wife, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property, so that his name will not disappear from among his family or from his hometown. Today you are witness. You know what Jesus has done? With the 10 Commandments as witnesses, He has just bought and paid for your life from the law. The law has no power over you. You're like, well, why do I keep feeling guilty? Because you keep believing a lie. That's what Satan's trying to make you feel guilty. You keep believing a lie. If you are in Christ, there is no condemnation. You have been redeemed by grace. Now, Ruth 4:13. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. When he made love to her, the love enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. I want to remind you, for 10 years, Ruth was married to Mahlon, and she could not conceive, never had a child. But now that she is under the new covenant, now that she is free from the law, she gives birth to life. God opens up her womb so that she can give birth to life, and that's what He wants to do for you. Jeremiah predicted it in Jeremiah 31:31. It says, the days are coming, declared the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the people of Israel and with the people of Judah. Romans 7:6 says, but now, by dying to what once bound us, we have been released from the law, so that we serve in a new way of the Spirit and not in the old way of the written code. And then you're like, yeah, but you don't know what I've done, Jimmy. Romans 3:22, it says, the righteous is given through faith in Jesus Christ to all who believe. There is no difference between Jew and Gentile. There's no difference. You can be a Moabite. No matter what you've done in the past, you are made righteous because of what Jesus did. And then the ending. And I'm finishing, Mark, and you can get ready. But at the ending of Ruth, there's this weird thing. There's genealogy. It's like, why is this in there? And regularly I would have left it out. But there's this genealogy of who came where. And do we have that verse? It says this then is the family line of Perez. Perez was the father of Hezron. Hezron was the father of Ram. Ram the father of Amminadab. Amminadab the father of Nahshon. Nahshon the father of Salmon. Salmon the father of Boaz. Boaz the father of Obed. Obed the father of Jesse. And Jesse the father of David. Now, I've told you what some of these names mean because this is a non-fictional story. This is a true story with a lot of symbolic meaning in it. I looked up what these names meant. We got that slide? Perez, breach or break. Hezron, enclosed by a wall. Ram, high and exalted one. Amminadab, by noble kinsman. Nahshon, enhanced miracles. Salmon, mantle and garment. Boaz, in him is strength. Obed, serving. Jesse, the one who is. David, the beloved. I've never heard this talked about. But you put those names, as you're an Israelite and you're reading this, and you know what these names mean. You put this together as a sentence. This is what it reads. The breach has been enclosed by the high and exalted noble kinsman with miracles in his garments. You remember the lady touched the hem of his garment. Miracles in his garments. In him is strength to serve the one who is His beloved. You, my friend, you are His beloved.